Welcome back to Dating Intentionally. I'm Talia, and I'm sharing no nonsense advice for navigating modern dating with confidence and ease. Whether you've been on dozens of dates or you're just getting started, I believe dating can be fun. And today's episode is going to be very fun. We have a Hinge success story. We're going to share our wedding recap. I'm very excited for this. Johnny, are you excited?
Yes,
Talk
we
about our wedding?
attribute all of our success to Hinge. Please sponsor Talia.
Maybe one day. So, today we are just going to break down our whole wedding weekend and honeymoon. This is a very special episode. If you're new, if you are not familiar, my husband, oh my God, my husband, Johnny, is joining us. Johnny, how are you today?
It's a great day to be married to my beautiful wife, Talia.
Oh, I'm going to throw in a question that I'm throwing into all my interviews now, which is what are you being intentional about lately?
Wow. Lately, I'm being intentional about recovering from the wedding and honeymoon and trying to do as little as possible this 4-day interim before going back to work.
And how's that going for you?
Mixed success, I would say. Um,
Thank you for joining me at work today when you're supposed to be
yeah.
relaxing. Okay, here's how this episode's gonna work. We are going to give you like a little recap of what our wedding weekend was like. Then we have a bunch of questions that we're gonna answer from you, which you submitted on Instagram. By the way, you can follow me on Instagram at dating.intentionally. And then we're gonna switch into honeymoon mode and talk about our honeymoon in Greece and give you all the tips and everything about how that went. Sounds good? All right.
Sounds
So
good.
let's just talk about what our wedding weekend was like because it was not your typical, 4 p.m. ceremony with the rehearsal dinner the night before and then like a reception right after, and then everyone goes home.
We also were not in a church.
We also were not in any kind of religious building space.
Or
So
technically in a building for
no,
pretty much any of it.
no, we were not. I'm just going to give you guys the rundown of what happened. We had a very long wedding weekend. So the Thursday night, our parents met for the first time at a restaurant, which is a restaurant chain, and I just remember being freezing because we were basically sitting outside. Then Friday morning, we got ready at our hotel and we had our ceremony with our immediate family at noon, and then we had this like long lunch. So that was like a whole whirlwind, but the day wasn't over because we drove an hour and a half in traffic from Oakland, California to Davis, and hosted a wine night for our friends who were, traveling into California from the East Coast and other places. Then on Saturday, we got our shit together for the party during the day, and then our reception was at 6 p.m. at a brewery called Roostaller, which is about 10 minutes from Davis. And this is like, if you don't know where this is, you shouldn't know where this is. Like, this is how would you describe this part of California? Like Davis, it's not Bay Area,
I would call it the Greater Sacramento region.
Greater
Um,
Sacramento region. Great.
yeah, I don't know. Also, it's confusing nowadays because I would 100% agree that it's not the Bay Area, but depending on who you're talking to, there are a lot of people living around this area now that commute into the Bay Area.
True.
But if you don't know where this is basically in Sacramento.
Great. So we had a whole party at this brewery, which is like this massive farm and brewery that lasted until like midnight. And then finally on Sunday morning, we met everyone in town for a quick breakfast so we could say goodbye. And then we drove home. Then we unpacked, repacked, and by 8 a.m. on Monday, the next day, we were on a plane to Greece where we honeymooned for 10 glorious days. And now we're back and we're married.
True.
That's the whole story. I have 2 rings on my finger now, and you have a new ring.
And I have one
Do you miss the
still.
engagement ring that I gave you?
Nah, I like this one.
Yeah, I like it too. Okay, so we got a bunch of questions from listeners. But first, Johnny, I want to hear your general thoughts about the wedding weekend. Like, was it worth all the planning? Was it worth the cost? What are your honest, unfiltered thoughts here?
So I think when we went into this, we had the goal of not having it be one like super long day. So somehow that instead turned into 3 super long days. And so that's maybe the only thing I would have changed is would have just tried to shove it back into that one super long day. It was fun. I liked everything that happened, but it really ended up being a sprawl of many days of whirlwind. So that was
Yeah.
a little hard, but it was fun.
I agree. I mean, I loved the whole weekend. It was super fun. But yeah, I guess it's like in the effort of trying not to shove it all into one day, we also were very tired spreading it out, to your point, across many days.
Yeah.
There really is, I guess what we learned is there really is no way to save energy and not be tired on your wedding weekend.
Yeah, because we got married in one place and then we had to drive to another place. That just made it hard. Like, I don't regret anything we did, but if
Yeah.
you can co-locate or remove an hour and a half of driving from the wedding ceremony location and the party, that would have been nice. I don't see how we could have done that in the way that we did it
I
though. Like
mean, we
wanting to get
yeah,
married in the woods like that. There's no woods near where we had the party, so
we definitely tried to
not a
look
lot of choice.
at like naturey locations nearby, but yeah, we are very attached to our locations, and our family must love us a lot because they did do that drive and all that traveling and kind of just this
Yeah.
weird like location hopping that we did. Everyone went along with it and had no issues. So yeah, they must love
Yeah.
us a
But I
lot.
really liked the way our ceremony worked out with just having our family there. That was great. I
Yeah.
wouldn't have changed that at all. And then the party was also great. So I mean,
Yeah.
all the activities were wonderful.
It was worth it. It was really worth it. So we're gonna get into some questions and just really quick, if you're more of a visual person or you want to see our faces, you can watch this episode on YouTube, and you can find my channel by heading to the show notes, or just Google Dating Intentional YouTube and you'll find it. And don't forget to hit subscribe while you're there. Okay, Johnny, I'll kick this off with the first question. How did you come up with the location for your wedding?
So the wedding itself, is that what we want to talk about? Because there were like 5 locations.
I think how did we come up with all the locations?
Took darts and threw them at a map. That's what it feels like. No. So we liked the idea of doing it, the actual wedding ceremony itself, in the woods. And so we found redwoods. We looked at Santa Cruz because that's where we got engaged, and that would have been even more driving. And so I think where we ultimately picked was kind of a compromise on location with still having redwoods. So that was that party venue. We had just gone there for a different thing. And like I was aware of Roosteller for a long time because I've been going there when I was at Davis getting my PhD. But we went there for a different event and you were like, wow, we should get married here. And I was like, yes, okay, sounds great. This is exactly what I want. Those were the big ones. I mean,
Yeah.
the wine event was also just a location that I've been going to. Cork it again, Neshoba Wines. Everyone go there; it's wonderful. Say hi to Joseph, and that was great. I mean, what else? The lunch post wedding was just a spot that we kind of picked, or you had been there before.
My mom picked it because
Um,
she
yeah,
hosted that event, and I think she ultimately was the one who was going to pick it. I mean, I think the ceremony, I knew I wanted to we wanted to do it somewhere in nature. I think my first pick would have been Muir Woods, but you have to book that out over a year and a half in
yeah, that
advance.
wasn't gonna happen.
Yeah, so that was, like, a bummer, but, that Muir Woods, by the way, is up, towards Napa, like, it's north of San Francisco. For anyone, you should definitely go visit, it's beautiful. But where we had it, which
Still would
is
have been 2 hours of driving.
it's true, it would've been a lot of driving, but it's so gorgeous. But no, where
Yeah,
we had it, is called the Joaquin Miller Park, and it is in Oakland, it's beautiful, there's tons of hiking there and mountain biking and stuff, so it ended up being gorgeous, but there were several different redwood locations in the area that we looked at that just happened to be the one that had, like, an easy permit situation, it was just, like, easy to book, it was the first thing that we booked, and then Rusaller, obviously, we booked it so far out, like, they were like, "You can have whatever weekend you want," and
yeah,
I remember that when I first said Rusaller, you thought I was joking.
yeah.
Why'd you
I
think
was
I was
like,
joking?
I just didn't think that was what you had, I guess, envisioned, or I don't know. I'd never imagined a wedding there.
Just to give you guys a
Um,
picture of what this venue is, like Roostaller, it's a brewery and it's a farm. They have chickens and cats running around and other animals. They have food trucks. They have a bonfire. They have a band, like a stage for a band. Like there's a lot going on at this venue. There are kids running around
and
everywhere, lots of dogs.
it's not inside or outside. There is a structure
It's like a
that
lean-to. I don't know. It's
that
like
really doesn't give it
no, it's just a
credit to what how nice it is, but yeah, it
it's
is
just
a partially exposed
yeah.
venue.
Right, like, if it was raining, it would be fine. And it just has a really unique, quirky vibe. Inside, all the furniture is like old living room furniture, like couches and armchairs. So it just has this a lot of character. And what I love about this venue is just didn't need a lot of decor or any dressing up because it just has so much personality already.
Right. We brought flowers and set those up and some pictures, but
Yeah.
that was really
We brought flowers from the
all that we
farmer's
did.
market in Davis, which I loved. Like we just
Yeah.
picked them out this morning and we just like separated them into jars. That was it.
It's all you need. How did you decide who to invite to your wedding?
Okay, so the backstory on this is that I didn't wanna have a big wedding, and I we had 60 guests at our reception and 15 people at our ceremony, and I still think that was a lot of people. I know people out there, weddings with 100, 200, 300 people. It was still a lot. So, I wanted to keep it small. I think early on we made our guest list pretty easily, and it was pretty much people we had seen in the last year. That was kind of the I don't know if that was our rule, but that was something we realized after looking at the list. It's like, "Oh, these are all people we've seen in the last year." And when there were the people where it's like, "Should we invite these extended family members?" Like, "Well, I've never met them. You don't have necessarily like a strong relationship with them that you're talking to them all the time." So it was like an easy like, "No." And they
Yes.
live
To
far
any
away,
of my
right? And they live far
cousins that
away.
didn't get invited, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I
Yeah, yeah.
still love you.
Yeah, no, we love but also they would have had to fly in and everything. It would have been different if they lived in Sacramento, I guess, but yeah, so that was kind of how we ended up with 60 guests, and pretty much everyone we invited came.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah. Third question, how did you navigate mismatched preferences during the planning phase?
Well, I did have to convince you to not run away with me and just elope. So I think that was the biggest thing. Like initially you were like, let's just go somewhere
Oh, yes.
and do
Yes, you
this.
are right. When we first started talking about getting married and we first had the initial discussion, like, way before we got engaged, I told you I wanted to elope, and you were like, "I don't wanna do that."
Yeah.
But I don't think I made it that hard for you to convince me, though.
We had it pretty much exactly what I had wanted. I didn't want to like have a huge thing either,
Yeah.
but it seemed weird or just silly to not have at least our families there.
Yeah, yeah. No, I think in the end, you were right. I just, like, am really drama averse and just don't like dealing with people. At all. So and it ended up being fine. A lot of it and, like, I talked about this on the podcast before, a lot of my feelings towards elopement had to do with the fact that my parents are divorced and my dad, he did not come to the wedding, and I knew that he wouldn't come, and it was, like, this whole thing, and and you kind of pointed out that why would I, like, make this decision based on the one person who said they're not gonna be there because they don't wanna be there, and you were right. Like, why would I do that? And he didn't come, and it was fine. Like, so, what I thought about this question, the mismatched preferences we had, was that I wanted pizza at our wedding, and you said no very quickly to that, and we ended up with tacos. But I was envisioning pizza initially.
I don't know. That wasn't a big deal to me. I guess I wanted something slightly more elevated than like I don't know. There's not like a great pizza chain or anything around there. So it would have been like just some little shop ordering 100 pizzas, 10 pizzas, whatever it would have been.
I think that when you
Um,
get pizza catered at an event, they bring, like, their equipment to make fresh pizza at the event.
oh,
But
I've never seen that happen. That is not I had envisioned a guy showing up with like 2 armfuls of pizzas, like in those weird heat capturing things
Yeah.
and being like, "Who wants these?"
Yeah.
Like,
That
I
would
dropped a couple on the way in. That's what I imagined.
They're, like, sliding in
So
the
I had
truck, so they're all,
never
like, smooshed, like, just
yeah,
there.
that's what I assumed.
Tacos were great, but that was just I never that being one thing. And look, we didn't really have that many mismatched preferences. I don't think either of us cared enough about certain things to, like we didn't butt heads on things like that. I guess the one thing we did butt heads on is, like, I wanted to plan out all the little details way ahead of time, and you were like, "We do not need to worry about this 7 months out."
Yeah, that's true. There were a lot of things like that where I was like, "That is a good idea. Write that down."
Let's talk
But,
about
like,
it in 6
we don't
months.
yeah, we don't need to decide that, and we probably can't decide that now, and even if we did, like, something will ultimately make us change our decision.
And it ended up being fine.
What challenges did you encounter when planning the wedding?
The main challenge I encountered, honestly, that I didn't expect were 2 things. 1, finding a good hair and makeup artist, and 2, finding a dress for the party. So these are things that are just related to my appearance which I guess, like
which was stunning,
oh,
obviously.
thank you. I guess, like, when you think about in the grand scheme of things, that's not really a big deal. Like,
No, doesn't
yeah,
really sound like a big deal.
no. Like, finding a good hair and makeup artist was hard. The first person I worked with, I don't really like what she did with my hair, and also her vibe and energy was just not the vibe and energy that I would want at the morning of my wedding, and I ended up finding someone who was amazing and super professional, but it took a while. It was kind of stressful because people get booked out really far in advance, and that was just stressful. That was not something I expected to be, like, putting a lot of energy into. What
And
about you?
to anyone asking, no, I did not have any issues with my hair and makeup or figuring out what I was wearing.
You you got
I,
your suit,
I
like, a
w-
month before.
yeah, when you had, I think, gotten your alterations like returned or something like that, I was like, I guess it's time to go figure this out. And I
Yeah,
just went to Suit Supply on like a Saturday and had a suit, and it was ready like 3 days later.
amazing. Meanwhile,
Yeah,
my
it
dress took,
was
like, 3
great.
months for the alterations. Any challenges you wanna mention when planning?
Can't think of anything. It went pretty smoothly.
It really did. It really did. We're both really good at planning, so, like, that wasn't surprising to me.
Yeah. I mean, we made our spreadsheets with our timelines and our tasks and our things, and you've really, really, really enjoyed checking them off the list. And so that was great.
I had a song for every time we check it off the list. Check
You
it off
did.
the
I encourage
list.
you to sing
Check
it
it
now.
off the
Yeah.
list. Um,
The
okay,
biggest arguments we had was, does this mean I can check it off the list
yeah,
now?
and I wanted to check things
And I
off
would
the list way earlier than they were actually
It's
done.
like, No, we made a phone call. We need to actually do the thing. Then you can check it off the list."
What was it like to have your families meet for the first time?
Sure. So the day before our wedding ceremony, we had dinner and drinks with my mom and my stepdad and your mom and your stepdad, and your grandpa and his girlfriend.
Yes.
And yeah, so that was good. Thought it went very smoothly. I don't know. They talked to each other. Nothing dramatic was revealed.
Everyone got along. I mean,
Yeah.
were you nervous about it?
No,
I
not
wasn't
at all.
nervous either. Like, everyone in our both sides of our families, like, they're just easy to talk to, personable, like, social people, and they're all kind of the same. Our parents are kind of the same age. So there's that,
Yeah,
and
they're pretty
my
close.
grandpa's a big talker, his girlfriend's a big talker, like, it was no
Yeah.
one's like a shy, quiet, reserved type in either of our families, for the parents, at least. Yeah, I liked it. I mean, for people listening, the reason why they had not met before is that my parents are primarily on the East Coast, Johnny's parents are on the West Coast, and we've only been together for 2 years, so there just wasn't a lot of opportunity for them to meet.
Yeah, and we
Um,
haven't done any, like, joint,
yeah.
holiday, anything like that.
So, that was cool, and then, it was nice because by the end of the weekend, like, our parents were, like, chatting and, like, they seemed like they really got to know each other, so that was cool.
Yes, the intention was to have them not meet moments before we got married.
That would have
So,
been a little
success.
strange, yeah. Okay.
Did you have a wedding party or speeches?
So, no, we did not have, like, bridesmaids and groomsmen, all that stuff. We did have some speeches at the lunch, more speeches than I thought we would have. We formally asked my mother and your stepfather to say something, and they did, and it was great. My mom, like, printed out something and read it. Your dad was more off the cuff. And then, surprise, surprise, my grandpa wanted to make, like, 3 speeches during this lunch, and unfortunately, every time he got up to speak, there was, like, something
Oh
really
my god.
noisy happening in the background. Like, we were in this restaurant
They
in
were
downtown
literally
Oakland. So there was a
Yeah.
train and there was, like, a garbage truck when he was talking.
Well, and then literally next door, they were dumping rocks
Oh,
out of
yeah.
a truck into a pile, and it started whenever he stood up.
We didn't see it, by the way. Like, this was in a garden
No,
area, like, it was beautiful, but we did hear street noise. Oh my god,
only
that
when
was
he stood up.
so funny. And then my brother also said some words which were really beautiful, but I did not expect my brother or my grandfather to say anything really. And then it was a lot of speeches for
Yeah,
me.
it
But
was pretty straightforward though.
yeah.
They were all very nice. Yeah, we weren't trying to, like, stop people from giving speeches. I assumed at least one person would say something,
Yeah.
but I didn't know who it was gonna be.
And then the party, we didn't have any speeches because it was just very casual and there were bands playing the whole night. So there wasn't a time where everyone was
What
together.
kinds of bands, Talia?
Oh,
What kind?
just jug bands.
Yeah, a totally normal wedding, exactly what we dreamed of having.
So, yeah, this is funny. This brewery Roostaller, they have live music every single weekend, and we were excited about that because we were like, "Okay, we'll do it on a Saturday night. They'll have a band. We don't have to worry about music. Great." Throughout the wedding planning process, we would keep looking at what the schedule was, like, what's gonna be on our weekend? Like, what's it gonna be? And eventually we found out that there was going to be the annual Jug Band Festival on our wedding weekend. And both I didn't know what a jug band was. Did you?
Oh, yeah, of course.
Okay, how can you describe what this is?
Not well.
Not well.
Um,
Okay, it's like
I would say it's
folksy,
old-timey.
old-timey, upbeat, but also I learned not always upbeat, sometimes it's very dramatic. There was a moment where we were
Yeah,
watching the band, and there were literally, like, 3 songs in a row about, like, murdering your spouse, heartbreak, and, like, other just not things you really wanna hear at a wedding,
yeah.
but it's
It's like
fine.
bluegrassy, folksy, country-ish, and then, of course, jug band, so they have a giant jug that somebody
Yeah,
blows and plays.
it was a vibe.
Yeah, it was great.
It was great.
Exactly what I wanted.
So no speeches there. All right, next question. Why did you do private vows and how did you write them?
Why? Because they're for our marriage. They're not for anyone else. Like, they're for us. And they were personalized, and you know them and I know them, and that's great. How did I write them? I typed them into a Google Docs document, and then I wrote them into a book by hand. Um,
Which was really
that's
hard for you
how.
as a left-handed person.
That was actually harder than I thought it was gonna be. I just thought about the sorts of things that I wanted to have in our marriage. That's all I did. How did you write yours?
Well, I just want to say your vows were amazing. Like they were so, so, so good, and I love them. And can I say the one joke that you put in there?
It's up to you.
I mean,
It's
I know
your
you just
podcast.
well, you did mention another podcaster, Jared Freed, in our vows because I listened to a lot of his podcasts out like very audibly in our house, and you mentioned that he is a presence in our household because of this.
Yes.
Your vows were serious, other than the one joke about Jared Freed in the
Yeah.
which I was honest, I was worried about. Like I'm like, oh my god, Johnny, like he's such a jokester. Like, is he gonna just be not taking this seriously? And that joke was good. I did laugh. I enjoyed it. The rest of it was very serious.
I do have a lot of secondhand listening to a lot of podcasts in the house because 'cause you'll put your phone at, like, speakerphone on, like, 11, and then I'll be literally upstairs as far away as I can be and be like, "Oh, okay, interesting."
What's going on You Up this week? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so some people on Instagram asked about they didn't know private vows were a thing. So if you don't know what that is, it's like you in a ceremony have vows that you say when you're doing the ceremony, but you if you want to, you can create your own and say them privately at whatever point during you can say it the day before or whatever, whenever you want.
Yeah.
Some people
So I
do
guess
it like
that's when our ceremony started,
yeah, so
was just you, me, and our photographer.
we arrived at our ceremony location early to take some pictures and do these vows, and that was definitely one of my favorite parts of the day, if not my favorite part of the day, because it was just like I mean, I don't know, I couldn't imagine reading such intimate things in front of people, I didn't want to. So we did our private vows and I mean, for me writing them, I think I thought about it for like a week and then I just like wrote it in almost one go. And then we compared word counts so that we could see if we were
Yes.
like kind of on the
You were
same
very
page.
concerned that mine were gonna be, like, 200 words and yours gonna be, like, 2,000,
Yeah, no, it ended up being like
which we weren't that far off.
mine were originally it was like double the length of yours, but yours was like a good length. I'm like wordier and I think I just had more of a preamble, so I took that out and, we, like, made them more even. But I just think that was really funny.
Yeah, that was
Okay.
good. I liked that process too, and, the ceremony was great. It was only 7, 8 minutes long, something like
Yes.
that.
We did
Yeah,
do
I didn't need
vows
to.
in the ceremony,
Right.
but it was like the
A
common.
common vow.
Yeah.
Did anything go wrong? How did you handle it?
So, okay, weirdly, nothing went wrong. Like, I can't believe I'm saying this, but it's like nothing went wrong except for on Sunday morning. And this is such a small
Mm.
thing, but we had planned, we had picked a restaurant in Davis to meet at for brunch. This wasn't something we paid for. It was more like we're all gonna eat. Like, we'll be at this brunch spot. Like, come say hi, come say goodbye to us. Like, we'll be here if you want to eat, get coffee, whatever. And I had been to this place before. I checked Google, it was open. I've eaten at that place at that time before, but of course we got there and it was closed, which was a
Yeah,
bummer.
they
So,
decided to change their hours on their front door,
yeah,
not
they just it was like a
online,
sticky note. It was
and
like
just that weekend.
yeah,
Yeah.
whatever.
Like, "Oh, well, I guess
It
this isn't
ended up being
happening."
fine. We like texted the group chat. We're like, "Okay, we're going to go around the corner." And we just like went to a cafe and everyone hung out outside on the sidewalk and like we'd all kind of mingled for a while and said goodbye and it was fine. But that was the only thing that went wrong.
That was really funny, though, because we got there and we were like, "Oh, guess we're the first ones here," and then we're like, "Oh, guess we're not going here today."
Yeah.
Oh, well. It was fine.
What was your favorite moment from the wedding?
Favorite moment from all of these different events? I mean, it's hard to pick one. They were all so good.
I know, it really is hard.
This isn't my favorite moment, but one of my favorite moments was at the very end of our party when like 8 different people decided they needed a picture of picking me up and carrying me in their arms. And so now we have like 8 something photos of this, of random people from our party all picking me up. Another one of my favorite photos from that was everyone that had John in their name, which was like, again, like 7 or 8 people. I got a picture of everyone with John,
That's
their
good.
name. That was great.
I think my favorite moment well, I have 2 that I can think of. I loved in the morning of our ceremony, like, when we woke up, I gave you a gift, and you were, like, half awake, but I was so excited to give it to you. And I was just I don't know, it was just, like, a nice way to start the day. And then the other one I could think of is just this is more like a scenario, but, like, in our hotel suite, we had a bedroom with a door, a bathroom with 2 doors, and, like, a living room area. I just, like, loved getting ready near you, and, like, we had to, like, figure out how to not see each other for that
Yeah,
morning.
not see each other for but only for like an
Oh,
hour.
yeah, it was
Like
a but I
pre
don't know,
whatever, it was
but
fine.
then we like, I don't know, I like that, like, you weren't gone, like, we were, like, kinda together, and then we did our first look in the hotel room with people watching, and I really liked that. It's like it wasn't a necessarily a private moment, and I thought that was really nice because we got it on video, and, yeah, I mean, the morning before our ceremony was just, like, really fun. Obviously, the ceremony
Yeah,
was my
it was
favorite part,
good.
but, like, outside of that.
Yeah, the ceremony was really great, and then the lunch after was very good too.
Yeah. What was the most surprising thing about the wedding? I have one.
It's hard to pick. You have one? I was thinking, like, everyone says how much of a, like, whirlwind it's going to be, but it was just, like, it never stopped the entire time, and because we had spread it out so far, it just meant that, like, there were 3 days where it just never stopped.
Yeah.
I never got to talk to anyone for more than, like, 5 minutes. At least it felt that way. I don't know what really happened. It's such a blur that I feel like I've almost forgotten half of it. I'm glad we have the photos that, we have some of them, we're still waiting on more, but I look forward to looking at those and being like, "Oh, yeah, that happened too," because there are just so many little things that happen.
Yeah. Well, for me, I was not surprised by that. I was surprised that we were ahead of schedule for a lot of it. Like that
A little bit, yeah.
yeah, like we actually were ahead of schedule during our ceremony, which really shocked me given like just like it's like herding cats, getting everyone to like go to the places and do the photos and everything. Like that was like I was shocked. I'm like, wow, we're like ahead. We're on time. It's like unheard
Yeah, we
of.
left on time, we
Right.
arrived on time.
Everything happened on
Wild.
time. Weird. What was your favorite non-traditional element of the wedding?
I'm trying to remember what the traditional elements were. So we didn't have a, like, rehearsal dinner,
Mhm.
but we kinda had a rehearsal drinking evening, which is like after the wedding ceremony, we went and met at the wine spot, and that was great. And it was like we initially, I think, envisioned it was going to be just people from out of town and it wasn't going to be that big, but it ended up being like half the people
Yeah.
that ended up coming the following day. So that was really cool.
I remember you were worried about that though. In your words, you were worried we were going to blow our load. And that would be basically the reception energy, before the reception.
Yeah. It was mostly not entirely, but it was mostly, like, our friends more than, like, our
Yeah,
families.
yeah.
So that was nice. But I did get to meet, like, your uncle for the first time there. That was a cool thing. I liked it.
Yeah, for my favorite non-traditional element of our wedding was definitely walking down the aisle together. I think that was just such a nice choice for us. I didn't want, like, my stepdad or my brother to walk down the aisle. It didn't really this to me, it doesn't make sense. It's like, I'm not being given away by someone. It's like, this is our wedding. We're gonna enter it together.
Yeah.
You already saw what I
And I
look
didn't have
like.
to, like, awkwardly yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. I didn't have to, like, awkwardly walk up by myself and, like, look at everyone and be like, "Hi."
Has a marriage changed your connection in any way?
Well, in the past 2 weeks, we've barely spent any time not right next to each other. So that's different, not that we normally spend a lot of time apart. Uh, I don't think so, not yet. We'll see what happens over the next weeks and months and years and decades and probably not centuries, but who knows? Um,
You never know.
you never know. Honestly, no, doesn't feel that different yet.
For me, I think our connection doesn't feel different, but I am definitely feeling like a transition for me. Like, if you listen to this podcast, I am so big on like making sure you've chosen the right person. I think I've been in this mindset for a very long time of like constantly being like, did I choose the right person? Did I choose the right person? But now we're married and I really don't have to think about that anymore. Like, this is my decision. I'm very happy
See,
with it.
I, like, knew that back in January
I
when I
know.
proposed to you, though,
I
so
know. I know.
I guess, yeah, and we've talked about that too. It was like a lot of that part of it was like, I went through all that, like,
Before you
back in
proposed to
December.
me.
Yeah, it's like yeah, I had to, like, basically decide first, right, in some ways. So, yeah, I was
But
like,
I
"Eh."
think it's for me, it's
And
like a
then
mental habit. It's like not something I'm trying to do. It's just something that my brain does after doing it for so long. It's like how I'm wired. So I think like it's like this I'm feeling this like relief, not relief. It's just a relaxation. Just like I can relax into this decision because I don't have to worry about this anymore. And I love that. I have
yeah,
so
now
much
what
more
are you gonna
grace.
worry about?
I don't know. I'll figure it out. Okay. Well,
Uh,
thank you for recapping the wedding with me. I mean, I'm so excited to share more pictures on Instagram. I have some pictures I'll link below on the show notes so you can see. And before we get into our honeymoon recap, let's just take a quick break to hear from one of our sponsors. So, we decided to have the honeymoon right after the wedding. Like, we got back from the whole weekend and we were on a plane
moments later,
what?
seconds later,
Seconds later.
seconds later.
In hindsight, it would have been good to have one whole day to recoup or like not take such an early flight, but that's what you do when you go to Europe from California. You gotta take the early flight.
It was really just there, yeah, because and our flight got changed a couple times. Like, originally, I think we were flying out at 9 or something, but when we actually left, it was 5 AM,
Yeah.
which meant getting up really early and debating whether or not we were going to bed, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but it was good. I mean, we did have the day where we got brunch. We did that, and then we drove back, unpacked, repacked, tried to remember who we are as
Yeah.
people, and then went to bed really early so we could wake up really early.
We got
So
Indian
it's just
food
a
takeout,
whirlwind.
which was great.
Yeah. Oh, so good.
I feel like we watched a movie, but I don't remember which one it was. I don't know.
I barely remember anything.
Yeah.
It's just a
I
blur.
mean, oh yeah, we read all our cards and we looked at the guest book. By the way, we didn't mention this, but the guest book was a Polaroid, like a Instax guest book, and it was
It's very
fantastic.
cool.
It was your idea, and I loved it. Like, I was really worried about the Instax guest book and like how that was going to go. Are people going to understand how to use the camera? What about reloading? But it's like, we have a bunch of millennials at our wedding. They know how to use this stuff. So like
Yeah.
we were fine.
Yeah, at least, like, 5 people there had the
Yeah,
same camera
exactly.
or a
So, but
similar
it
one.
was so, so nice.
I'm pretty sure someone else's camera got out, and we were using 2 of them for a while. Did I
Yeah.
hallucinate
Yeah.
this?
No, no, it's true. Someone else brought their Instax camera, which was like better than
Yeah,
ours.
and yeah, and I just remember being like, "When did we get a second one?" And then being like yeah,
I
so it was
also
fun.
really quick because we didn't talk about this and I'm just really proud of this. Sorry, back to the wedding for 1 second. Is our party favors. This is a huge part of the planning and process that I didn't reveal this like at all before the
Yeah.
wedding, which is that we made hot sauce for our party favors. And we did such a good job on this hot sauce that people didn't know we made it.
Yeah, we should have made it worse.
we
Yeah, we made hot sauce because we had tacos, and so that made sense, but
We also love hot
It just
sauce.
like, but well, yeah, I love hot sauce. But like between, so we got bottles, we got custom labels made and printed,
Which was the most
and
expensive
then we
part.
also, yeah, by far, and then we also sealed them. So they looked like, if they had had like a nutritional label on the back, it would have been like,
Yes.
"Oh, you bought this." But that was really the only thing missing. Yeah.
And people loved
So
it. Like, people
that
were
was a
so
whole
happy with it.
process.
We made them small enough so people could take them on the plane, which also like, we had to make so much hot sauce for testing the recipes and filling the bottles.
Yeah.
Like, it was a process. It was your idea. And when you first said it, I was like, I don't know, it sounds like so much work, but it was worth it because it was a great we had 60 guests, we made like 40 bottles, because a lot of people were couples.
Yeah.
So it wasn't that bad. But anyway, just wanted to
It
we
was,
forgot to mention that because that was awesome. I'm so glad we did that.
yeah. It
Okay.
was really fun. It was like, I agree though, a risky move making anything
Yeah, we almost
food
didn't make
related.
it.
Yeah.
We almost
It
didn't
was
make enough
like,
in time.
eh, yeah, I think at the very end, I mean, but we had time. We had basically a week at the end, but we were nervous that it was like,
Yeah.
will it get finished? And like with something like that too, you're like, are we going to accidentally poison everyone?
Yeah, yeah.
But we did not.
We did not. Okay, sorry, back to the honeymoon. So our honeymoon was 11 days, including a day to get there and a day to get back. So we had 9 nights total in Greece. We visited Athens for 2 nights, Paros for 3 nights, and Santorini for 4 nights. Johnny, what are your general thoughts on traveling in Greece?
Very easy to get around. Athens is a major city. It's got everything you could expect from any major city, pretty much anywhere. So, I mean, we mostly walked around, but it would have been very easy to get like Uber or whatever. Small enough to walk though, which was great. And then Greece is cool for a lot of reasons, but very easy to get around. So we took a flight from Athens to Paros, and it was, I don't even know, we didn't even get up
It was
very
like
high on the plane. It was
15
like,
minutes in the air.
yeah, it was not even 30 minutes. And then we also took a ferry. We took a couple ferries, but we took a ferry from Paros to Santorini, and that was like an hour and a half, 2 hours, which is also a very nice experience and very like reasonable cost. So it was great getting around. We
Yeah.
rented a car on Paros. You drove us onto a different ferry, which took us to Antiparos, where we basically got to the very end of the world. This
Really felt
like,
like we were at the end of the
oh,
world.
yeah, it was like, we'll rent this car already on this small island, drive onto this small ferry to get onto a smaller
And then
island,
go to the
and then
end.
drive, yeah, drive on the one road until the road ends, and then I guess you're there.
I
It's
also
really
love
cool.
Greece. I mean, it was great as a honeymoon location. There's a lot of variety, which is something I particularly appreciate in traveling just like to any country. It's like, oh, I can go back and have a completely different experience because there's just so
Yeah.
much to see and experience in Greece. Let's get into some of the questions. How did you choose Greece, and were there any other locations that you considered?
We looked at each other one day and said, Greece.
That's not true.
We basically wanted to pick.
No.
That's not what happened. Um, the thing we talked about when we were initially looking was, let's pick somewhere that neither of us has been before. Greece was high on my list. Spain was on the list. There were a few other places.
Costa Rica
Um,
was on the list. I think
yeah,
Belize was also on the list. And you wanted it to
yeah,
be
and we
somewhere warm.
did not want to freeze on my honeymoon.
I remember like when we first started dating, you mentioned Greece, as a place you really wanted to go to. So I think that's part of why I was very like, yes, let's absolutely do that. And it's funny because when we first started dating, I almost went to Greece with my parents. I was planning
Right?
a trip. I don't remember why I canceled it, but I ended up going to Italy and then with you instead. And yeah, I'm visiting family. So yeah, like
Yeah, which,
Gre-
and I can't remember, they have a phrase in Greece because basically ethnically Greek people are the same as ethnically Italian
oh yeah,
people,
I don't remember
and
what the
I'm
phrase
sorry if
was.
I'm deeply offending someone here, but, yeah, they had some phrase that was like, "Same, same." I can't remember,
Yeah, it was a
but I
phrase.
was like, "Oh, okay. What was your experience like working with a travel agent?" Which, by the way, we worked with a travel agent, and why did you choose to do this?
I am obsessed with working with a travel agent. I mean, that was one of the best choices we made, and, it was great. It was a great experience, and we did it because we were like, "Okay, we're planning this wedding," and we knew we wanted to go on the honeymoon right after, so the idea of just planning an international trip, like, with multiple destination like, multiple, spots, and a wedding at the same time, which just seemed really daunting to me. It's like, could we have done it? Yes. But, like, I think we were like, "Let's just
Oh,
try
totally. We
this."
had the time,
Yeah,
but
we
yeah, that
could
was
have done
great
it,
not having to.
but honestly, like, our honeymoon was, I think, so much more relaxing because of the travel agent, because every detail was squared away. We didn't have to worry about anything, and I think honestly, when I think about traveling with people, a lot of the squabbles and moments in tension that come up because you're, like, trying to figure out the confirmation and get the Uber and, like, get the
Yeah,
thing and,
there's,
like,
like, all
figure
the
out
little
yeah, all those, like,
friction.
we have to go
Yeah.
here, we have to go there, like, "Oh, do we have to get there early," and, like, the timing. But no, with a travel agent, we didn't have to worry about any of that. So for me, as someone who's like this pretty much defines my entire personality, and I know you've made fun of me about this, but it's like, if we order an Uber, I'm gonna wait outside for the Uber for, like, 5 minutes before it gets there, and whereas, like, most people will just wait for the notification. Like, it doesn't matter what's happening outside, like, the weather. I'm like, "No, I need to stand there on the curb. I need to physically see it roll up." And people I've traveled if you're, like, roller guys, people I've traveled with, like, hate that about me. They're like, "We could just wait outside." I'm like, "You can wait outside. I'm stressed. I don't wanna miss it. I wanna make sure it's in the right place. I'm gonna wait outside."
We also splurged on this because it was our
Yes.
honeymoon, and so, like, we did get, like, private pickups from the airports and the all the transfers,
Well,
which was
yeah.
great.
What we learned about when we were looking for travel agents, and I'll link the one we used in the show notes, like that none of this is sponsored. But we learned that like our budget was kind of we got rejected by some travel agents because our budget was too low. I would say we spent a lot. This was definitely the most expensive 11-day trip I've ever had, but
Yeah, me too.
it was still too low for certain travel agents. But we still, I think we got our money's worth. Like we stayed in amazing accommodations and all the private pickups, we had private tours, like, everywhere, so I think it was definitely worth it.
It was great.
Alright, so what was the balance between the free time, like, spent together and apart on our honeymoon?
Did we spend time apart on our
A
honeymoon?
little bit. I mean,
Outside of the bathroom?
I was in there with you. No, I'm kidding. Absolutely not, absolutely not.
I mean, I would say a majority was together. There was some time where, like, we'd be reading, like, separately from each other, or, like, you went down to the pool
Yeah.
a couple times, but we were
We were
pretty much
together most of the
entirely
time. I mean, we
together.
do a lot of, what we call parallel play, which is
What you call parallel play,
which is, yeah,
which
like
sounds like something else.
I know, no, it's like when we're doing activities next to each other, but not interacting. So it's like, okay, we're both on our phones, we're both reading, like we're together, but we're not like talking the entire time. And I like that. It's like we're sharing this moment where we're not interacting and it's still I feel connected to you. And yeah, there were moments where I was outside reading and you wouldn't want to be in the sun. Fair. There was never a moment where like I
Yeah.
left the hotel without you for some reason.
Yeah,
Yeah. No, we were together
never
pretty much the whole time,
separated.
and honestly, like, I could have done 11 more days with you at least.
You're gonna have to
You're
talk to
very
my
easy to hang
employer
out
about
with.
that, but, yeah. How did you decide where to eat during your trip?
So, yeah, the food was incredible. Like, we were so into the food. Mostly I remember there was a moment, like, a month before our trip, we did do a day or, like, a session of restaurant searching because the travel agent didn't book us restaurants. We
They recommended a
Yeah, they
ton,
recommended a
and we
bunch,
went
but
to
they
a
didn't
lot of
make
those.
so we basically did some research and we told them which reservations to make, for us, which a lot of them got moved. We ended up only having 1 reservation the entire time. So the rest of the time, we were just, like, stumbling into places based on recommendations from the hotels we stayed at, from my mom who had been to Greece. We went to, like, 2 places she recommended. The only miss was weirdly, the tour guide we had at the Acropolis recommended a place next to the Acropolis, and I was kinda like or the museum, and I was like, "Are you sure? Like, places near tourist attractions usually aren't the best." She's like, "No, no, no, this is good." And we went, and it was not good.
It was fine, but yeah, the
It was
price to
overpriced,
quality
and
wasn't
I
there.
wasn't into it at all.
Yeah.
But, that was the only miss in terms of restaurants, like, I mean, the food in Athens and Paris was amazing. In Santorini, I would say the food, if you get away from the coastline, is better.
Yeah, definitely. And I think we had one meal that was more than 100 euros, and the rest were
30 to
60,
60
70.
euro.
A
Yeah.
lot were a lot less,
Yeah.
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 Yeah, like, for dinners, I don't know, at least, like, where we live, the thing that's gonna drive up cost a lot is if you get, like, 1 cocktail and it's $20 here, where in Greece, if you get a half liter of wine, it's like €5, so,
Yeah.
like, it was just a lot cheaper.
So I want to talk about the islands for a second because like we stayed on Paros and Santorini, and I mean for me, I think Santorini is a kind of place where maybe you'd stay on for 1 or 2 nights. Like we stayed there for 4 nights, and I'm glad because we had an incredible hotel with a infinity pool that overlooked the sea, and we had the view of the coastline, and it was beautiful. But like the town of Fira, and we also visited Ia. They're just it's just tourist stuff, and there's nothing authentic about these towns, and they're packed with cruise ship people. So, like, just that part wasn't as
Yeah.
pleasant. Okay, what books did you read on your honeymoon?
Well, we read one book together, which
Yes, we
was
had honeymoon book
Tomorrow
club.
and Tomorrow and Tomorrow, which was like what, a 2022, 2020. It's
Yeah.
a fairly recent novel about two friends who decide to build a video game company together, but they're both kind of awful people
You
and
did
they
not
make
like this book.
poor decisions. I
I mean,
I rate it like 3 out of 5. It's like fine. It was a quick read, but like I don't know. And then the plot wasn't really driving after like the beginning was good. I liked the beginning. The first half of the book was like, okay,
yeah,
they're like moving things along, and then it just kind of like stuttered out and it finished and
it was
it was
fine.
fine, but it wasn't
How
great.
did how did you feel about honeymoon book club? Before our honeymoon, I was kinda like, "I wanna read a book together. I wanna" because we're in a book club. Well, we're in your book club that you started, and, I was like, "Let's do our own mini book club and, like, choose a book." So we, like, did our research, we presented books to each other, we chose it, and I love that. I thought that was really fun thing that we did on the honeymoon that was, like, kind of gave
Yeah.
us something to talk about. That wasn't the wedding.
Yeah, and that book was split up into like a few major sections that each had a couple chapters in them. And so it was good. We'd like try to get to the end of the section and be like, what do you think about this? What's going to happen next? That sort of thing.
Thing
Highly
we
recommended honeymoon activity.
Yes, the other thing that we did on our honeymoon, which I loved, is that we brought question cards, but these were question cards that were very unique because at our wedding or reception, we had our guests write questions for us to discuss. So, I've talked about this many times on the podcast, but like you can get all these card decks, and I'll link my favorite one in the show notes. But for our wedding, I was like, let's have our guests write questions for us. So we did that, and that was fun because some questions were absolutely ridiculous, and some were actually pretty solid.
Yes. One that stands out to me is who is more Mothman and who is more Mole Man? And yeah,
My favorite one was like, "What flavor of ice cream are you and why?" And we determined that
we did debate
you
that for
are
a while.
salted caramel and I am, chocolate vanilla soft serve twist.
Yeah.
Okay, so
There's so
just
many reasons.
alright, to wrap this up, what are your tips for traveling with a partner for over a week?
I mean, definitely you want to start with a plan. You don't need to do a travel agent, but like knowing what you're going to do on each day, whether it's we're not going to do anything this day or we're going to go to a food tour at 11 a.m. and then blah, 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 blah. So just kind of setting expectations like when are we going to just like, after having walked 10 miles, lay in the room and go,
Yeah.
for an hour? Like, because that's an important thing. And if you don't put that into your schedule or if you don't have like a shared understanding of that, I feel like that's what's hard. It's like if you had gone from a tour into another event right away, a couple days in a row, I feel like you're just gonna be exhausted and you're not gonna enjoy it. So
And
just
yeah, also
knowing what you're gonna do
to
when is
build on
downtime.
that, like, discuss what kind of travelers you are because some people are like, "We need to pack in every second." Like, we came all the way over here, we flew for 17 hours, we have to be outside of the hotel. Another person might not be that like that. I think we're very much on the same level. Like, I need a nap pretty much every day on vacation, and I'm not like, I need to rest between our morning activity and dinner time, and also, like, I can't even stay up after 9 PM. Like, there was this one night where we went out and we had some wine, and I was literally falling asleep in my moussaka, like, at the
Yes, I
table.
remember the second or third day of our honeymoon. I was like, okay, one night I want to stay up till like the evening,
I failed
maybe
you.
till midnight. And I think by 9, you were basically dead,
Yeah.
falling asleep in your Masaka, and I was like, "That's okay."
Thank you. I'm glad you accept me for who I am, which is not a night person. Also, I wanna mention, this isn't a tip or anything, but something that did happen on our honeymoon, which I loved, is that my brother organized a surprise date for us at the end of the trip. And one of my travel rules is that the last night needs to be planned. Don't leave your last night of a trip open. Like, make the reservation, do something special, because there's nothing worse than like it's your last night and you're just kind of like, oh no, it's my last night. Like, what do I do? Make a good reservation or have some kind of tour, just something as like a final send off. So when I learned that someone had planned a surprise for us on our last night, I was kind of worried. I'm like, oh no, like what if it's not good? Of course, it was amazing. But my brother organized a private tour for us to go to the one mountain, the peak of it on Santorini, where there's a monastery. And
Mountain.
yeah, it's like barely a mountain. um, but
Technically, it is a mountain.
we saw the sunset up there and we had a guide, and our guide was really fun, and we had wine. It really felt like I was on The Bachelor. That's the kind of date it felt like. And then he drove us to a village, and then we showed up at this restaurant, and there was a private little hut for us right on the water on the Black Beach in
Yeah.
Santorini, and we had this gorgeous private dinner. So shout out to my brother Alex, who was on the podcast recently. He really crushed it with the surprise, and it was very memorable.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, thank you, Alex. That was awesome. I liked planning that with him. Like, so
Right,
he
you yeah,
he and
you knew what was
I,
going on, I had no idea what was happening.
yeah, he had reached out. We talked about a couple ideas, and then we decided on that ultimately. And you didn't know about it because it wasn't in the itinerary. And like, I remember when we were like trying to pick restaurants, you were trying to put one in there, and I was like, oh. And then the travel agent, you had like already reached out to the travel agent, and they were like, actually, you already have a surprise that
Yeah, I was
evening.
like, "Oh, okay." And then I went on this whole saga of trying to figure out who it was, and I called Alex and I said, "Alex, like, was this you?" And he was like, "No. What are you talking about? I didn't even know you were going to Santorini." Like, he really played up the lie.
Yeah. Yes, we did a good job lying to you about that. Yeah, and then you asked me during the honeymoon, like, "Who was it? Was it this
Yeah, I
person?
made
Was
you
it
give
this
me
person? Was it
clues.
Alex?" And I was just like, "No," every time.
So it's actually funny, if like last year, Alex and I recorded another episode about gift giving. So I really should have seen it coming because he's a master gift giver. All right. So thank you for listening for our honeymoon segment. I mean, Johnny, this is my question for you. Like, now that we've had our wedding and honeymoon, what's next?
Well, only about, 8 months until the first baby's due.
Oh my God, stop, stop, stop. He's joking. This is Johnny's favorite joke. Like, if you're listening to this, like, Johnny will take any opportunity to make a joke that I am pregnant. It actually happened at our wedding, like when we were setting up for the party. Do you remember?
I did, I
You
forgot
made a
about
joke, and my
that.
mom really thought you were serious. Both my mom and my stepdad were like, "What?" And then I played
Yeah, they
into it,
both,
and they
like,
really
yeah. They both chuckled, and then they were like,
wait,
"Wait,
what? Okay,
really?"
but for the record, I am not pregnant. Um,
Not yet.
And what's next? I would say, honestly, like we've been talking about this, what we want our first year of marriage to be like. And I have told you that I want it to be chill. I don't want anything to happen. I just want to have like the first years of we being together, it's been nothing but just change. Like, we
Yeah.
dated for a year, and then we both changed jobs. We moved to a new state. Then we got engaged, and we've been planning this wedding. It's like, what happens if we just kind of have no changes?
Don't have a major event in every 3-month period. Yeah, I agree. So I'm looking forward to, I don't know, stability, whatever you want to call it, boring
Yes.
matrimony.
Yeah, let's do some of
Um,
that.
sounds great. I also look forward to, and we've been talking about this, is setting some longer term goals
Yes.
for ourselves as a married couple. So what that looks like in terms of like exciting things like financial planning and,
Yeah.
where do we want to be in a couple years or 5 years or 10 years? Yes, you're getting so hot over there. I can see it. Um, so that's exciting.
Yeah,
And
just
yeah, just like how are we gonna budget for that and how are we gonna plan for that and what do we want to do with our
I know, we're like,
lives
"What do we wanna do?" Well, it's
now that we're all grown up?
I've been thinking about this, and I haven't, like, shared this with you yet, but it's like, now that as an individual, now that I'm married as a person, I do feel like I have a lot more mental space. It's like, I don't want you to feel like, "Oh, this is a box to check," but it's like, this part of my life just feels so stable right now that I feel a lot more flexibility to take risks in other areas of my life, and I love that. It's like, Oh, I found my person, and we are going to build an amazing life together, and I can still obviously pursue things as an individual that I have always wanted to do, and I just feel free in that way, and I think it's great.
That is great.
Do you feel that way?
Yeah.
That's great.
I guess I decided that back in January.
Right,
So,
you're this is not new to you, it's all new to me for some reason. You know what? We experience
yeah,
things differently,
I
it's all
proposed, you
good.
said yes, and it was like,
Done.
cool. Like, didn't matter, like, if the wedding day, like, got like, the plan went out the window and, like,
Yeah.
whatever, the officiant didn't show up, like, yeah, whatever, we still would've gotten married. It would've been a different story, I guess,
It
but,
would've been weird if your best friend didn't show up to marry us.
yeah, that would've been a dick move, but he did, on time.
Johnny, I wanna thank you so much for joining me today to do our wedding recap. This is very special, and I'm excited to listen to this in, like, 5 or 10 years. And for the listeners, where can we find you?
Oh, so I'm actually the one on the other side of that little box that Talia puts on Instagram that says, "Any questions for me that I can answer?" I'm on the other side of that. That's me.
Oh,
Um, yeah,
you're
so that's where you can find me.
in my Instagram? You're pretty much everywhere on my
Yeah.
Instagram, that's
Oh,
true.
you can find me on, the platform formerly known as Twitter, where I tweeted one time in 2009. Um, my Facebook's deactivated. My Instagram is private. My email account is on Gmail. It's my last name.
Oh, yeah,
Please
we
don't
didn't
reach
talk
out
about
to me
this, but
there.
I am taking your last name, so
True.
I get to have a new email address. I'm very excited. Okay, well, that's our show for today. I want to thank you for listening. Thanks for trusting me. I hope this episode inspired you to think outside the box if you're going to have a wedding at some point in your life. Don't forget you're doing great. And I'd love it if you'd share this episode with someone who is navigating dating and might need a little confidence boost or some tough love or just wants to hear about how a wedding went. If any of these episodes have helped you in your journey, you can help me by leaving a stunning review on Apple or giving Dating Intentionally 5 stars on Spotify. I really appreciate it. Once again, I'm Talia. This has been Dating Intentionally, and I'll see you on Tuesday.